Brother, it's actually a fucking honor, you know. Like I get really starstruck when someone wants to have a conversation with me. I'm like, oh yeah, sound. I'm just a guy who's potty mouth, sounds a bit funky, says a lot of really fucked up shit. And I'm like, yeah, okay, let's have a conversation. And then there's a couple names that kind of stand out. And dude, I just want to say thank you.
Mate, my pleasure. Hey, dude, I don't mind if you want to throw a few curse words out there while we talk. That's totally fine by me. Growing up in Australia, it's kind of the thing to do. So, mate, feel free.
Yeah, mate. Like when people get a little bit weirded out about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, do your thing. I'll kind of respect that. But I'm also like, how am I supposed to get through this conversation without cursing?
Yeah, yeah, they're
Oh,
my descriptors. That's the way that I describe things.
yeah. That's not me, bro. I say some fucked up stuff. But anyway, how's life post being an
Mate,
athlete?
mate, it's freaking great. I had a really good run through my 20s, and I couldn't have asked for much more than what I was able to witness and be a part of through my 20s. And I feel like my 30s is going to be even better. So honestly, like I'm just super excited for what's to come, and we've got a bunch of really cool things in the works right now. And every 2 to 3 years, I think, holy shit, like fuck, look where I am. I would have never guessed what I'm doing now 3 years ago, So I can't I can't complain. I'm having a blast. I'm trying to build as many cool projects as possible and just do the things I enjoy doing. And I love to travel. I still love to work out and compete in some rec sport and still stay around the CrossFit space and compete in some international comps as teams. Um, Again, like I don't have any fire in my belly to go back to the CrossFit Games as an individual, but I'd still maybe like to go around and have a crack at touring in our nationals and just for fun and see how we go, but with no real expectations other than just having fun. And
Mm.
that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm just kind of trying to dabble in a few different things and playing around with some hybrid sports. So, registering for some strongman and powerlifting comps and doing some Ironmans at the same time, just seeing how far you can kind of take two ends of the spectrum and see how good you can get there. I'm kind of getting my fix doing that with sport. And then I'm also getting my fix mainly because I put it on such of a back burner over the last 10 years competing. You kind of have to be so selfish that your whole existence revolves around this one goal, and that's to be the best in the world of the sport. You don't really have time for much more. So yeah, just building some businesses and some projects and doing some things for passion and doing some things for career.
Mm.
So dude, mate, having a fucking blast.
Mate, that is music to my ears, man. People doing stuff that they love doing, they find fun, and they're just super passionate about. Like that's what we're here to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the way that I've always really like tried to look at things, even from a young age. I started out, trying to run my own stuff after, doing a few jobs, like working at I worked at a fishing shop when I was a young kid, like 13 years old, and I, did the whole fast food thing, worked at like Hungry Jack's for a few months and decided it wasn't good when summer rolled around. And so kind of just started going to the beach instead. And I thought, oh, if I want to take my sport seriously, I need to focus on training as much as I can. So I need work that doesn't revolve around a shift.
Mm.
So I need to be able to generate income for myself. And I was doing that from, ages of 17 onwards, just trying to, figure out a way to make a buck so I could still do the things I wanted to do whilst also being able to train. So yeah, I completely agree. You've got to do the things that you enjoy, and if you can turn them into a way to earn a living, then you've hit the nail on the head.
Fuck yeah, man. Like you mentioned something about you took expectations off yourself, right? That is, I think that's where most people end up tripping. Is they shove so much expectations on themselves of I need to be X, Y, or Z, right? First of
Yeah.
all, why did you do it, and then like how?
Yeah, yeah. Well, just touching on that expectation, it's expectation I feel like you put on yourself, and then it's also the expectation that you feel other people put on you that aren't actually real. Like it's like, oh, everybody expects me to do well here, therefore I now have pressure to do well. But all they really want is for you to be happy and have a good time. So if you can kind of look at it from a different perspective, I know it's easier said than done, and I struggled with it for a few years, but yeah, the expectations you put on yourself and the expectations you think people put on you, there a lot of them are irrelevant at the time. And if you were to focus on the task at hand and kind of live a little bit more, I know it's a little bit cliche, but live in the moment a bit more, you'll probably find you'll be happier, hungrier, and you'll probably perform in business or relationships or a sport better just by having a good time and being in a good mental state. So that's what I've kind of really found. But, I guess for me, putting it all together, for me, it was figuring out, making a lot of mistakes really in the beginning. It was, I started a business. I opened my CrossFit gym when I was 22, and I wanted to set the business up so I could, take a handful of classes. I could earn a living doing that, and I could also compete as an athlete. And for me, what I tried to do as much as possible was I took the advice of the people that had done it before, and whether they were actually trying to compete at a high level or just run a business, I learned a lot from a coach that ran a CrossFit gym that I first went to in Sydney. And he gave me a bunch of information and all the mistakes that well, not all of them, but a lot of mistakes that he made in the beginning. He's like, oh, I tried this, didn't work. Tried this, didn't work. Tried this, worked really well. So he said, learn from my mistakes. You'll make your own, but at least, I've cut off 20% of the mistakes you don't have to make yourself. So I tried to take that into account. And whenever I give someone, a bit of advice on, preparing for the CrossFit Games or preparing for regionals or, starting a new business, usually the things that I focus on and try and tell them is do the basics really fucking well, really well, and you will be in the top percentage of that field if you can smash those basics. Don't worry about these 1%ers to begin with, but do the bulk of the work, do the 90%, low hanging fruit exceptionally well, and you'll already put yourself in the elite category for whatever domain that you're working within. If you can do that, you'll be very good. And then once you got those things down pat and they're on autopilot, then start attacking those 1%ers just to maximize your returns on whatever you're doing.
It's the same person who comes in the gym, right? It's like, what's the perfect program? I was like, dude, you sleep 5 hours a night. You eat Mackies like 5 times a week, and you know what I mean? Like, you're stressed out your eyeballs. I was like, no, just sack all that off. I want you to walk around the block, sort your life out first, man.
Yeah.
Let's get the majority sorted, and then you can start pissing around with that top 3%.
Yeah, you're so on point right there, and I think that's the thing when anyone wants to focus, when anybody wants to focus on a goal, such a specific goal that is, I want to build this multi-million-dollar business, or I want to build the perfect physique, or I want to improve my fitness to the point where I can do a competition of some description. It's like, great, fantastic goal. That means you've taken the first step to wanting to improve yourself, whatever it may be. But just before you do that, maybe just get a few things in check. And that's, make sure your sleep's on point, your nutrition's on point, make sure you're hydrated, and make sure you're managing stress. And if you can just even touch on those few things first, and it could take a week, could take 2 weeks, could take a month. But once you've nailed a few of those things and get some structure and some boundaries set for yourself, then implement that and you will execute it so much better. I agree with you completely there.
100%, man. Like, people try and overcomplicate it, right? It's like, it's not that complicated. My mom used to tell me as a kid, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
like, that's it, man. Just let's work on that building block, the foundations, building the foundations on the rock, not the sand. And, kind of go from there,
Oh, 100%. And I think that's where a lot of people, may take a wrong turn in the beginning, and they'll learn from those mistakes too. It's just like, okay, cool. I've decided I want to, I've done my first 2 weeks of CrossFit, decided I want to try and qualify for, nationals or something like that. And then they go out and buy a bunch of, gadgets and bits and pieces to track their recovery and blah, blah, blah. And all that's fantastic. But like, in the beginning, maybe your focal points, in my opinion, your focal point should be on, being a regular at class for a good period of time, honing in on the basic skills first, and then start to get a bit of a taste for what you might be in for if you do want to take it a little bit more seriously. Because I think a lot of people have expectations that they can train immediately for 4 and 5 hours a day. And it's usually not the case. I've never met anyone who comes from, a sedentary lifestyle and just jumps in the gym and can handle that type of volume. I don't even think it's possible. unless you've had some prior exposure
Yep.
to exercise or sport or some type of sport in the beginning. So yeah, you're right. Build the foundations, cover those bases, get things in check that, support just being healthy. And then if you're healthy, then you can crush your business goals, your relationship goals, and your sporting goals, and whatever other things you might have on the cards, because you'll just think clearer. You'll be able to be consistent, and the consistency is one of the biggest things that I speak to people about when they're wanting to pursue a fairly specific goal. Consistency is key, and it's focus. Like, if you can be the best person at focusing and be the most consistent person or the most consistent worker, and you're consistent at the basics, you'll crush whatever you're doing.
I could not agree more. I say, I got it off a good mate of mine back home, this phrase of it's chess, not checkers, right?
Yeah.
Literally, your move is to move it one square. That's
Yeah.
it. You're going to come in, you're going to do one thing, you're going to fuck off, you're going to go home. You're like,
Yeah.
what? I was like, no, man, that's it. You're done. Now go focus on something else. I think the gym is a great metaphor because it kind of slaps you in the face, right? And I believe it's a catalyst for everything else. So we kind of focus on this thing, and yeah, improving our physical health is a good thing as well. So is the mental
Yeah.
health side, but then it bleeds off into everyday life, right? And you're like, oh, I got an extra rep or round or however cliche it means. I broke a PR today. I'm a badass, right? I can now kind of put up with a little bit more, help some co-workers, be better than my partner, be a better dad, whatever, right? You kind of check in with yourself, fist fight with yourself so you can check out and be better outside, but
Yeah.
it's chess, not checkers, man. Don't
Yeah.
fall into
Well,
that trap.
that's exactly it. And I guess in relation to, being in the right mental state, I think that plays a big role. And typically for me, I've said this a couple of times more recently, is I would rather go into a competition a little bit less fit, a little bit less physically prepared, but feeling happy as fuck before I get there. Because if I'm happy and having a good time and I'm in the right mental state and I'm in the right arousal, for whatever I'm about to do and just pumped, I'll compete better than I would if I was 10 or 15% fitter physically, higher VO2, a little bit stronger. But if I'm recovered well and I'm happy and got a smile on my face, man, I'm way more dangerous like that than I am if I'm fitter and, just, yeah, just not really vibing being wherever I am.
Wow. So how do you keep yourself level? How do you keep yourself in that good state, man?
Look, I think I think it has a lot to do with the way you conduct your everyday lifestyle structure. If you can put some things in place and set some cool boundaries for yourself, which I haven't been the best at in the past, but I've kind of learned from them, and putting some boundaries in place, learning how to say no when things are just building up, and you're really figuring out your priority list. So learning how to say no, setting some really, set in stone boundaries, and then making sure that you have a really good group of people around you. If you've got a handful, 3, 4, 5 people around you that you can constantly vibe off, that are just really good humans that are going to support you with whatever you're doing, and not tear you down or not make you feel like shit. But they're just there to, help prop you up, help, just be a sounding board if you ever need to, have a chin wag, or get some advice from, then I think you're putting yourself in the best position to do well. So if you want to keep a super calm, if you want to do a lot of things, if you want to have your finger in multiple pies, and that might be crushing some goals in a few different areas and a few different areas of life that fire you up, you got to have that team. You got to have that base of support, which is your health, and those bases that we spoke about before. And then I think, making sure that you do allocate time for the things that do really put a smile on your face, that maybe have nothing to do with the 3 goals or the 2 goals or the one big goal. Make sure you allocate a little bit of time, for the things that make you feel happy and make you feel like a kid again, if that's how you want to feel. Or for me, like, I've always enjoyed just playing sport for fun. So now I just try and register for as many different sporting activities that fire me up. And that doesn't necessarily, well, it does in a way, but it doesn't necessarily correspond to doing well in business, but it does help me be better at owning a business. It just makes me, it gives me an outlet to make me feel good. It gives me a time away from, just flicking emails on my phone or trying to figure out new ways to create cool content or educational pieces for people that you want to learn about nutrition or sport, or how to become an elite athlete, starting from the ground up and what my journey looked like. So if I can go out and play some touch footy, get in the water, do some recreational events like some triathlons, or, sign up for some random events that I might not be good at, that kind of fires me up in a way that kind of keeps me level across the playing field. And if I'm ever feeling like mega burned out or just like super stressed, you can figure out a couple of, different mechanisms that you can deload or take some stress out of your bucket. And that could be as easy as, just jumping on a phone call and having a chat with a friend. Or for me, I've got a sauna downstairs, so I might go chill out in the sauna and leave my phone upstairs so I actually don't have contact with it, unplugged for a bit. Or it could just be going for a bike ride. Yeah, well, that's a slight physical stress. You can, notch it down and keep it at low intensity, but go just have a good chat with someone and not be on your phone. That's, just a stressful thing. Whenever you're getting tugged from a bunch of different directions, it's usually from that thing. So if you can like detach from that for a bit, that's a really good way to try and keep level.
Yeah, for sure. It is quite a strange thing, isn't it? When you don't know where your phone is or you're not close to it, you feel this weird like
Anxiety.
anxiety. It's jinx. It's super weird, right? You're like, why am I so anxious that I'm away from my phone? Oh, someone might have messaged me. I was like, what? But they don't need me this second.
No.
We used to, we only had landlines, right? We didn't have a mobile phone. When you left the
Yeah.
house, you left the house.
Yeah.
Like, if you want me, come find me.
Yeah.
If you can't
Yeah.
find me, I'll see you tomorrow, or you can ring me on the landline later on when you think I'm or know I'm going to be at home. It's a weird thing, and I fall in the same trap as yourself of like, okay, I guess I'll open up my emails, because it's easy, it's on my phone, it's in one place, or I'll open up Messenger, so which is a business conversation or a work conversation, and you're always just kind of spinning these plates. And I was like, guys, sometimes you can sit down, sometimes you can rest, and I got to tell
Yeah.
myself that as well, man.
Oh, dude, I do it all the time. I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still working on it constantly. But, we just launched a business over the weekend. But the last week I've been in New Zealand. We had a competition over there that I programmed for, and I was invited out to come and hang and chill. And then they offered a few days down in Queenstown to do some rec stuff, some hiking and some mountain biking, and going out to do a bungee and get in a speedboat and a buggy and do some clay shooting. And during that period of time when I first got down there, I knew I had work to do, but we allocated 90 minutes to 2 hours a day to do some work, me and Dean. And then for the rest of the time, dude, we were outside just doing these cool things, had a blast for like 3 days. And I've come back from that thinking, should I be training? I need to be on the road hitting Ks. I need to be on my bike getting Ks in. I've got some races coming up I don't feel like mega prepared for. I want to do well in these races, but I don't feel as prepared as what I could have been. But in saying that, I just finished a block of 5 weeks of training that was fairly difficult, to an extent. Not the hardest block I've ever done, but it was hard for the situation I'm in right now. But that 3 days in Queenstown where I got a bit of reprieve from doing that stuff. I had every other day was a rest day, technically. And I got back, jumped on the bike yesterday, went for a 3-hour ride that felt like 30 minutes. Was feeling powerful on the bike, got in the pool this morning, feeling fast in the pool. Haven't swum for 2.5 weeks, but was hitting better times than I normally do and just felt fresh. And that's like kind of gave me some confidence to know that, taking that time away and having a bit of time where you can, go for a couple of hours of hiking, if that's what you're into, gives you so much more than, just putting your foot on the gas all the time. You don't have to take your foot off the gas. You don't have to put the foot on the brake, but you don't have to keep your foot on the gas. Maybe you can coast for a few days here and there and do some things that, you've wanted to do for ages, maybe go camping or, just go chill, an hour south of where you live or north or by the beach somewhere that makes you feel good. and you might get just as much benefit. You might get more benefit out of doing less than going and clocking another 100 Ks on the bike, just as a metaphor.
Yeah, 100%. Have you read the book The Body Keeps the Score?
No, never, but you've intrigued me.
Yeah, so it's essentially whatever goes on upstairs, the stressors, usually the body holds onto it, right?
Yep.
And that time, I would pose like the kind of hypothesis of you ended up socializing and relaxing mentally, and then you come back and your body feels great. And it's like, well, technically you shouldn't, because a bit of travel, you probably didn't stretch enough. Food might have been a little bit lack. You might have got on the piss. You're like I can logically look at this as an athlete and be like, I'm going to go into the gym or in the pool or on the bike and feel like shit. But mentally, you're in such a better place. You're like, I feel fantastic, and I know that 110% works with me. If I'm like kind of, oh no, it's fine. I'll get on with this. I'll put that off. I need to get this done, blah, blah, blah. Old injury just goes, Alex, you gotta listen to this, man. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. It's time. It's time. We got to figure this one out.
Yeah, dude. I did the same thing. I had my foot on the gas for a fair while, and then I got into Auckland and I went for a 10K run, felt great. 2 days later, I went for another run. I was going to hit 20, got 15 Ks in. Calf started feeling real sore. Never had a calf kind of blow up the way this one did. And I was hobbling for the last 5Ks, and I probably should have pulled the pin at 15. And instead, I decided to run for the full 20 or hobble for the last 5. And then, it just became an issue for the next week. And, I still haven't run since last Sunday. And, I've been on the bike, but I'm feeling it's coming good now. But I'm just like, oh man, I should have just pulled the pin. That was a sign that my body was kind of at its point where it's like, hey, you need a bit of rest and recovery, and it's probably a good time for a bit of a deload week from training in particular. And then focus on some other things that don't physically tax you as much, but you can focus on some other areas. And it was probably the best thing that we're in Queenstown for the next few days.
And you get like some reflection time too, and a little bit of mental cleaning going on. You can kind of clear out all the gunk, right? And it give your body some time to recover too. And it's a real fascinating thing, this thing that we're bound to, the body. It's smarter than we kind of give it credit. We don't understand what's going on. And I think we should learn to decipher that code that we get given, right? That we class as pain. It's just a code. It's a signal.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I think you can train your body to be more, you can train your mind to be more intuitive into what your body's trying to tell you. And, what to the point of what you want to eat, when you should go to sleep, when you need to wake up, what foods work with you, what foods don't, when to drink a little more water, all these different things that your body's trying to tell you. If you just block them out with, just with clutter, mental clutter, it's hard to progress anywhere. You might still make small progressions, but you are chucking that handbrake on, and we want to remove those handbrakes as much as possible. So maybe getting out into the nature a little bit more, and doing a bit of exploring away from your phone, it might just free you up to be like, oh, you know what, I do feel like this isn't the best thing for me. And, maybe having 10 shots of coffee a day is not great for my health, or makes me feel dumb. Or maybe getting up and exercising first thing in the morning, even if it's only 15 or 20 minutes of a walk or a jog or a swim or a bike ride, might be the best way to start my day, because then I've done the one thing that I know is going to make me feel better later. I've done it early. I feel fresh. I've got the blood flowing. I've more mental clarity. I feel smarter, and I stimulated myself physically. There might be the best things to do, and try and do that in a way. And you might not think of this when you're bogged down with like the day-to-day routine. So I highly recommend, if you want to stay mentally sharp and mentally healthy, you need to take those times way often, probably more often than we think. Maybe try and do something once a month where you get away and you do something completely different from what you're doing day to day.
Yeah, I always like to play around with being uncontactable and just like being, just be. And everybody kind of, dissects that word differently, and what that looks like for individuals is different. That's great. But just kind of get rid of the noise and the ties, and just kind of sit with yourself and become a little bit more in tune. And it's quite interesting what comes out of that. It gets weird. It gets quite weird for a time, but then you come out of it and you're like, wow, like I'm kind of, reborn, however hippy dippy it sounds like. But I kind of subscribe to the school of spirituality a little bit, not too much.
Love it.
And I genuinely believe it's like, okay, cool. I need to get to know me a little bit more,
Yeah, dude. I think that's pretty important. And I think a lot of people just be like, nah, fuck it. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I've got no time for that. But it's like, okay, cool. Well, if you feel like that's serving you, then keep doing it. And if you feel like something's off, then maybe think about it a bit more. Probably a period of time in my life where I just didn't even bother, but I've always been pretty open-minded. I like to try and keep an open mind until I've tried things that I understand either I like or don't like. And you can always take a little bit of advice from someone, and they might give you 10 things and you might take away one or none, but at least you've been open enough to be there and listen. And it could help you, with your business. You might be able to apply one thing that you've learned to making your business go from, 4 figures to 5 figures or 6 figures or whatever it may be. But that one little piece of advice might go a long way. And in my personal experience, like I said before, the things that really helped me was just utter focus, like laser focus on the task, and then breaking those tasks down into like smaller tasks, or those goals. Is like, okay, well, I want to go to regionals. Okay, so if I want to go to regionals, I need to make sure I can hit these numbers come regionals, and that goes for running and swimming and biking and lifting weights and particular calorie efforts or time exposed efforts on an assault bike. All these things I need to get done. Okay, cool. Then let's take it back to the next step. Okay, what do I have to get done this week? What do I have to get done today? What do I have to get done in this session? What do I have to get done in this set? And then you break it down all the way down to the smallest parts. And it's like, okay, you need to do this set of 5 like this, next set of 5 like this, next set of 3 like this. And then once that's done, okay, what's next? And then you have to kind of be in that moment and not be too stressed about what's happening tomorrow or the next day, but do them all really well all week long. And then you've had a fantastic week. And then you build that week. You've won the week, then you do the next week, then you've won the next week, then you do the month, and you've won the month, and then you've won the 3 months, and then you go to the competition, and then you crush that. And it wasn't just the 3 months of training. It was the set at the start, the second set, the third set, the day, the week, the month, the block. And then, then you've accumulated all this stuff that amounts to the goal that you wanted. And at the end of it, every time that I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, I've always gone back and thought, no, thank fuck you did those sets on a Saturday night at 8 p.m.
100%, man. Like a 30-year overnight sensation. Nobody sees that hard graft at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night when they're all out drinking and doing their thing. I'm like, great, do your thing, man. But like, this shit ain't easy, Hard things are hard. I hate to be the guy who points out the obvious, but it is. Like, it's every day. You got to wake up and be like, okay, I guess I got to put one foot in front of the other again, and we go do this thing all over again. And you've got now. I like to think about the future being a lie we tell ourselves to keep going. Yeah. And it's like, well, if it's a lie, then I guess the only thing that's actually true is right now. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to use that to the best of my ability.
Yep. Totally. And that's all it is. Like, at the end of the day, you got to do the things that, keep you happy and motivated. And, if I can figure out exactly, some people don't even know what they are. If you can figure out the things that do make you happy, and, focus areas on that, and then have some goals at the same place that, you might have a goal that you think is going to make you happy, and you get to that goal and you think, oh, it made me no more happy. And don't do that again. Try something else, or maybe you might find that you're happier working towards the goal. So maybe focus on the kind of the now stuff. At the moment, like, I've got an end goal. Like, in December, I'm racing an Ironman. I've done this Ironman once before a few years ago, and I had a goal in mind that I wanted to try and achieve in terms of time. But yes, the Ironman, I loved every minute of it when I did it first time around. That may happen again, or it may not. I might hate it. But at least I know that, going out for a ride with friends or a jog with friends or jumping in the pool with people, I like the training aspect for it. I like getting prepared for the comp. So even if, I don't entirely enjoy the race at the end of the day, maybe I will, maybe I love the whole thing. I hope I do. But I knew I enjoyed the 98% of the work that led into doing that race. And I've enjoyed that portion of it. And I've got some good memories to bank from that.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man. Brother, I got 3 questions.
Yep.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Greatest piece of life advice. Man, that is a tough one. Life advice. I would say, oh shit, that's a really tough one. Um, in my mind, I think, like, I always really got hung up on the end result. And for me, the end result was doing well on the leaderboard. So I always got hung up on that, but I also got hung up on the fact that I thought people expected this particular result of myself, which put a lot of pressure on me, and it was hard for me to navigate. And they're the things that I think about during training. But then I used to sit with a lady. She was a counselor. She wasn't like a registered psychologist or anything. She was a counselor that she was better than any sports psychologist I ever spoke with. And I just used to get her a peppermint tea, would sit down for half an hour, and she would go through some things. She's like, so how you feeling about this comp coming up? And I would tell her how I feel. And the best piece of advice that she ever gave me that kind of changed everything was just keep it simple. Like, keep it simple, stupid stuff. It was just focus on the things that you can control and then ditch the rest. So you can control how well you hydrate, how well you fuel, how well you sleep, how well you train. You control all that stuff, how well you travel into the comp. You can't control how fit everybody else is, how fast they're moving on their bikes, how quick they're transitioning to their next exercise. You can't control any of that shit, so don't even bother wasting your energy thinking about it. So you can control your controllables, leave the rest. And that was a really good thing that made me do. It went from being pretty good to even better.
Yeah, I love that. What's the worst piece of life advice you ever received?
Worst piece of life advice, man. Worst piece. It's hard for me to think of the worst piece of advice, because when I hear it, I almost think in my head, oh, that's a shit piece of advice. And I just put it out of my head and I just say, oh yeah, sounds great. And then forget about it.
Yeah.
But you know what? I would have to say, well, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to think about that. I might, when I think of it, I can't think of it. I've really bad, like I've had bad advice before, but I almost can't even think about it. I'm just trying to think about all the good pieces of advice that have ever been given. But nothing crazy bad that's really chucked a spanner in the works for me.
It's all good, man.
Yeah,
That's
that's
all
a
good,
tough
man.
one. That's a really tough one. A bad piece of advice, worst piece of life advice. I guess I'm pretty lucky in the respect that I haven't been given some really shockers. Otherwise, I'd be able to say so. So I'm probably pretty lucky there.
That's good, man. Or you've just kind of literally just pushed them out of the way and be like, yeah, whatever, bro, and just kind of
Yeah,
cracked
yeah,
on and just forgotten
yeah,
about them. And that's great, man. Like, of
yeah.
course. Uh, last question: 3 words you tell your younger self.
Oh, 3 words I'll tell my younger self. I would probably say focus. Focus would be one for sure. Focus, consistency, and the last one is a double header, but have fun. Focus, consistency, and have fun. And if I just did those right from the beginning, I probably wouldn't have stressed myself so much whilst I was younger, even though I was probably fairly stress-free to an extent. There was a couple of times I ripped my hair out, but trying to juggle business and training. But yeah, focus, consistency, and have fun. Because there were times where I didn't want to train at all because I wasn't having fun. One time I went 5 months without training through 2000, back into 2017. I just walked into the gym with my bag to train and literally walked in the doors, turned around and got back to my car and got back in the car and went home, just because I just wasn't having fun. So yeah, that was probably a good sign that I had too much stress in the bucket and I needed to do something different for a little while.
That's a great piece of advice to yourself, man.
Yeah.
Brother, I just want to say thank you so much.
Mate, my pleasure. I had a blast having a chat with you. And look, if you ever want to get me back on and say for a few more curse words, and mate, I'm keen.
Dude, the fucking door's open, man. Like anytime you ping it over, yeah, cool. We'll make it happen. The time difference will be a little bit crazy when I'm home, but fuck, I'll get up in the middle of the night. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, me too. I'm happy for a 3 a.m. call, man.
Yeah, maybe we just get absolutely slaughtered.
We can do that too. Do that too. I need some fucking margaritas or some seltzers at the moment.
Sounds good. I'll see if I can pop through Australia on the way back, or maybe I come to Australia.
Maybe you come to Australia. The Gold Coast is a beautiful place.
Yeah, man. And we'll do a workout. You'll have to really slow down because I need an asthma attack in between burpees and stuff like that. So
cool. That's cool.
But it's fine. I'll keep up with you on the drinking.
Great. Let's do it. I love that.
Man. All right. You have a cracking day and we'll speak soon.
Awesome, dude. Thanks heaps.
Appreciate it, man. Bye, everybody.